Here.
Kim Hollers,
Present.
Bobby Hopewell,
Present.
Brenda Hughes, Kia Lee,
Present.
Shalana Lewis, Carol McGlynn, and Alyssa Stewart.
Present.
May we have a motion to excuse the absent members?
So moved.
Moved by Damaro,
Second.
supported by Lee. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Happy New Year. Good to see that you all survived this amazing New Year that we all had, out celebrating with crowds of people, I'm sure. Not. But it's good to see you all safe here. We'll try to get through this agenda pretty expeditiously. You should have the minutes of our last meeting before you. Are there any changes, questions, additions?
No.
I wanted to say something, not regarding the minutes, but I had called Brenda Hughes. I don't think she answered, but I see her on here.
She's here.
Yep. So Brenda is here. Shalana Lewis is absent, is the only current absent member.
Here.
Okay. Brenda, you have your microphone muted. You're muted. We can't hear you. So I hear you. So what we'll probably need to do.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, there we go.
Good.
All right. I figured you had this by now.
Well, I hit the unmute several times when we were doing the roll call, but none of them would unmute that time.
No worries. May we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
Moved by Hughes.
Second.
Was that the vice mayor? Who was that?
No, it was Carol.
Oh, there you are. Okay, McGlynn. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Motion carried. Excellent. All right, we are now at approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll take that as consensus that the agenda moves forward. Any reports of committees at this point? All right, well, move to item number 6, new business, forming a nominating committee to fill the current vacancy. As you all have been informed, Dr. Reddy has resigned due to some changes he's had in his professional life and everything. And we're going to miss his presence. I'll ask Mr. Ford to help me pin a thank you letter to him for his service. As you know, Dr. Reddy's been about this work in his previous careers and certainly been about this work with us for about 5 years, if I remember right, Commissioner Cooney. It's been a lot of years, and that's how this iteration of SPK came about. He was a big part of that, and we'll miss his voice, but we do need to replace him. Mr. Ford, do we have, we need to appoint a committee, I assume, a nominating committee, that's one. And then there's a process and timeline in there as well. So I'm going to ask you to talk about the timeline and everything, the processes, before we ask someone to serve in case they can't handle the timeline.
All right. So according to, well, first of all, I sent out some materials. I apologize for not sending our current bylaws. That may have helped a little bit, but I did send out a nominating committee brief that highlights some of what Mr. Hopewell said. So one purpose is to fill the vacancy we have. Our current bylaws state that we have somebody in front of the city commission by March 15 of this year. So the timeline would look something like this. We get a nominating committee, some members on board. We create some documents for public consumption to let people know what's involved with service. Brainstorm some potential candidates, prioritize needs of SBK, organize a committee based on some of our conversations. We will be looking at having a submission to the city commission by March 8th, a week before the March 15 meeting. The staff will have to do some, conduct some work around putting it in our system, our civic clerk system. So this month would be basically getting those tasks out that I mentioned previously. We'll decide on a candidate and report out to the organizer committee by March 1st. And then March 8th, I would submit the candidate information for the city commission agenda for March 15.
Any questions so far? Okay, do we have anyone willing to serve on this committee? You also received, I think, from Mr. Ford, all the folks that are serving on a subcommittee, and I'm not sure, well, actually I have it right here. What am I saying?
Yep, that was another item that indicated our current committee roster and the work they're involved in regarding SBK. So the current bylaws state we need a 3-person minimum to serve on the board, 5 people max. But the other document I sent out highlights what everybody is involved in currently.
Yeah, so where I was going with that, those folks that do not have an assignment, I'm going to ask you folks to take on the task of the nominating committee to try to make it reasonable and fair to all those folks that are serving in other capacities. So the individuals I have are Ms. Stewart, Dr. Cooney, and the vice mayor are the 3 that I show. So I'm kindly asking you 3 to serve. If you, and I see thumbs up. So we'll make that a nomination from somebody who's got to make a motion, I guess, right, Mr. Ford, is that correct? Because it should be an
Yes.
action. So we do need a motion by, and
So moved.
moved by, who moved that?
Carol.
Moved by McGlynn,
Support.
supported by Damero, that we appoint Dr. Cooney, Vice Mayor Griffin, and Ms. Stewart or Director Stewart to the to be the part of the nominating committee, or to be the nominating committee.
Good.
Anyone else wanting to do it? I don't want to take away from anyone else wanting to do it. I know Ms. Lee loves having more responsibilities.
No longer nominating is tribute. Nope.
No tribute here. All right. Since this is sort of a formal act, I'm going to ask for a roll call on this if there's no one else interested in serving and no further discussion. We'll close the nominations. And Mr. Ford, roll call, please.
Don Cooney,
Yes.
Ben Damero,
Yes.
Patrice Griffin,
Yes.
Kim Hollers,
Yes.
Bobby Hopewell,
Yes.
Sakia Lee,
Yes.
Carol McGlynn,
Yes.
Alyssa Stewart.
Yes.
What about me?
You
Yes.
forgot you
Brenda
forgot-
Hughes, I forgot you, Miss Hughes.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Brenda Hughes.
I'll come after Hopewell. Hopewell Hughes.
Yep. I'm gonna say you first next time. If we gotta decide on something.
No, I'm a librarian. We're in alphabetical order.
Okay.
So, Ms. Hughes, were you a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Ford, did you get Ms. Lewis is on now? I don't know if you saw that, and I didn't know if you called her.
She is on now? Okay,
She gone.
Yeah, sorry, I'm late.
no
Had a
problem.
Shopping commitment.
And were you a yes on the nominating committee, Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
All right, motion carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Yay, congratulations to those folks that are gonna serve.
So I wanted
Work
to say I'm gonna send out to the nominating committee emails this week to get something scheduled on the calendar. So expect an email from me today.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Okay, so if we have recommendations, can we recommend to the nominating committee or can we not do that? We can do that.
Please, please.
Okay. My list is short.
and one of you individuals will have to chair that group. You can decide amongst yourselves how that works and let us know. Merry Christmas on that. And yeah, so we're on number 7, unfinished business funding review subcommittee update.
All right. Yep. So our last, just a quick review, our last meeting, we established a subcommittee for SBK funding review. It was some difficulty due to holidays, of course, in terms of scheduling. We got 5 members on that subcommittee, and we had our inaugural meeting last week. There's only one person, Ms. Hollers, that was able to make it due to holiday and other things, but nevertheless, whether it was 1 or 100, we still rocked it and had a productive meeting. And so I'm gonna just go over briefly what we talked about and get everybody on the same page with that. We went over the purpose of the subcommittee, the roles and responsibilities of the subcommittee. We have a timeline regarding the subcommittee and a communications plan, right? A lot of those are internal just to keep us on track. But next steps will be for me to follow up with the absent members to make sure everybody's on the same page. Some deliverables, finalizing the LOI document and the guidelines for putting online and distribution to folks in the community. And those were the only 2 things.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Ms. Hughes?
So I'm kind of confused, Kevin. I mean, I've filled out the days that were okay for me, though I'm retired. Most of them were okay. I didn't see the date that you settled on. And so, I mean, I didn't miss the committee because I couldn't go, is what I'm saying. So I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know what happened, but so are you saying that we're not having another meeting now that the meeting is, that it's been decided? Whatever you need to decide?
No, what I sent out previously was to
Was a Google
land,
thing.
yeah, doodle poll to land on a date for our first meeting together.
Right.
Right. And so that, because we had our meeting today, I wanted to get that on the calendar so we could report out. And so that's the only thing you missed so far. I sent everybody that was absent all the documents related to that meeting.
Okay.
And I hope that was clear, but yeah, I plan on following up. So that's another thing I wanted to say. All the members that were absent, expect an email from me today in terms of times to follow up. Like I said, I want to address any questions you may have and get everybody on the same page as we move forward.
Well, just know I kind of filled in where most of the people had filled in saying, yeah, 3 people are on there, so I can do that day. But just know that I can probably do any other day. If it wasn't one that I picked, I could probably still do it. So
Okay, that's great to know.
otherwise I can
forward.
pick every single one of them almost.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Ford on that process or the committee or anything? Wow, this must be 2021.
Kevin, sorry, I do have one.
Let's do it.
Kevin, so can you reaffirm, I know with the holidays and everything, are we still on track for the timeline that was shared at the last meeting as far as the grant process?
Yes. Yep, we are.
Any other questions? All right. Any
Bobby,
miscellaneous-
just,
Oh.
so just, and when you talked about the communication plan, was that internal communication or were you talking about getting that word out to the community?
That was internal.
Oh,
for-
okay.
For us, just getting the word out. We will finalize that and come up with some distribution channels to do that.
Okay. One of the things I just would suggest is that once that's out, that gets shared with everybody so that we all have networks of people that we can pass that information along to. And so making sure it comes back to the committee to be able to do that.
Yep, will do.
Okay. Mr. Ford, do we have new staff that need introductions, or am I missing something here?
In terms of,
Ms. Marsman, I'm not sure, maybe I just am not remembering.
so Ms. Marsman is our new admin staff
Admin?
for
Okay.
community planning and economic development.
All right, I didn't know if you had been on the call before, but I wanted to make sure we welcomed you and wish you a happy new year and glad you're with us. All right, we're on miscellaneous. Dr. Cooney?
I have a couple, anything you want to talk about? Is that what we're up to? Okay, I had a couple things. One is, as you mentioned, I'm not on any committees, but I would like to be on a committee. I don't think I'm very qualified, but I'm highly motivated and I work hard. So if I can get me on a committee, I'm up for it. Second thing is, I see that Dr. Rita is starting a committee to talk about equity for students in public schools. And I'm certain that fits perfectly into the kind of things that we're trying to do, because she's not just talking about in the classroom. So I'm wondering if we shouldn't link with her to try to talk about how there's some way we could connect. I would just put that on the table for that one.
Director Bonner, do you know much about what's going on with KPS in that?
I've heard of it, but I haven't no information, any particular information. So, Sakia's raising her hand.
Yeah, I don't have more information from my angle, but I know right now, I believe they were accepting applications for folks to apply. The same way that we have had presentations, and they may not even be at the presentation phase, but the same way that we've had informational presentations. Well, when we were last meeting, I'm wondering if we could at least have her come on and state what the overview is, at least, so that way we will see how it aligns with our goal teams, our overall umbrella of 2-generational approach, and all the other things that we're working on. But if we all don't know, I would either say we have to designate somebody to reach out and talk to her, or so we can all be best informed, have her do just a short overview presentation with us. And I mean, I know we haven't had much interaction in that space.
Yeah. I'd be happy to reach out and, have a conversation with her about that and then see if we can, get her to come talk to the committee.
So do we need her to come talk to the committee, or can you just investigate, find out what's going on? We're trying to determine alignment. It's going to be hard to get her schedule to align up with ours. I know it is.
I believe that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't I just reach out, figure out what's going on and stuff, and then we can decide from there what makes the most sense with connecting up. And maybe it's connecting Dorla up with a rep from KPS and that kind of stuff. But I'll be happy to reach out.
Well, maybe you and Dorla could do that jointly, but I'll leave that to you guys.
Okay.
I don't direct Dorla or your schedules, but anyway, I'm just trying to figure out if there's ways to expedite and make things more simple.
Yeah,
So, okay. Others?
I did have two more things.
Go ahead.
One, we at Western, we have traditionally had an event for Martin Luther King's birthday, but with COVID, we can't do that this year. So the Lewis Walker Institute is going to do an online program where we're going to show a film, which is called The Great American Lie, which is about the American economic system. And we are going to have 2 or 3 people respond to that film, because at the end of Dr. King's life, what he was working on was economic justice. So I'll make sure that I'm going to send to Kevin the details on this, and then he can send it out to everybody else, just so that you're informed. It's a really good movie. It's new, and it really looks at how the economic system is structured.
Who's going to respond, Doctor? As in, who do you have on tap to respond to that?
I haven't gotten people yet. I'm open to suggestions. I had thought Jacob Penny Johnson, for one. I would definitely like him to do that, because he is chairing the economic committee for the TRHT. But I was going to have 2 other people.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you. I don't want to, so, but I really, I think we have to have someone talking about the entrepreneurial space.
Good.
In this conversation.
Yeah.
And, we have to get Black folks, brown folks, all folks that have been marginalized owning stuff. And, we can provide services all we want, and we want people to have jobs and work for people and all those things, because that helps drive you to ownership. But we also need to create a space that makes ownership, entrepreneurial ventures, all of those things more simple. And so someone that can speak to that, and just want to make sure that you consider that. So.
Yeah, please. I'm open to it. I'm in charge of it. So let me know, and we'll make sure that we get somebody on there from that. Great.
Maybe
And the last
Mitchell,
question,
maybe Director Mitchell or Manager Mitchell can help us figure out some of those folks that might be good voices to that, whether they're local or national or regional or whatever. There's a whole bunch of folks doing in other communities, especially, but even in ours as well, that are doing some great things in regards to supporting entrepreneurial efforts and interests. So you can.
Yeah, Dr. Cooney, you can reach out to me and everything. I think you still got my cell phone. So.
I do, and I'll call you, Antonio. Great, great.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, my last question is, and I might have missed this. We had contracted with the Upjohn Institute about helping us with our work, and that was a couple years ago, and I haven't heard what they've come up with on that. I know I talked to Randy one time when he was in charge over there, and he told me that they were looking at Raj Chetty's ideas about social mobility, and they were going to look at that. But I haven't heard anything more on that. I'm curious.
Yeah, so I can respond, I guess, from the Institute perspective, but Laura can also provide additional details. So our new president, Mike, and I had been meeting with Laura and Jim on a quarterly basis. And the last I was told was we should have something very soon that can be presented to the community in terms of an update on where that's at. And Laura, I don't know if you have additional info on that.
What we'd like to do is suggest, if it's open, the group is open to it, is to see if we can't get folks coming to the next meeting or when we have the next available agenda, just to provide an overview. I think the idea is what could come forward by way of presentation is not a finished product, but really an opportunity to engage in dialogue. So if that's of interest for this group, we'd be happy to do that. Otherwise, we can provide an update in what other format you'd prefer.
So group, let me make a suggestion. We've had them come multiple times and we get these partial update pieces. I think and Dr. Cooney, if I'm channeling you incorrectly, let me know. Part of what I heard you say, we've been at this for 2 years. We are hoping to see a product and what have you. I think a quick update from staff of where we are, and then when we will, I mean, getting the temporal alignment of, okay, 2 years, what have you, are we going to hear specifically, or this report out in April, report out in May, but having them come and do another update. We've been there, done that. The goal is to, what is our end product going to be? So that's my suggestion. Doesn't mean I'm right. I'm putting that on the floor.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially as we think about this next round of grant making, that information feels really feels critical to ensure that we're funding strategies that are connected to what the data is showing us. So I would support just thinking about, I guess, the alignment of that, or how can we get, even if it's kind of raw, and how can we get some data so that that can inform the grant making process we're about to embark on.
So for Dameron and the Deputy City Manager, Lamb, do we have a sense of timing on this? Are we talking 6 months? Are we talking 4 months? Are we talking 9 more months?
So I think what Ben's described right now, much of the work that has been done is trying to get all of the data feeds together. So we've got right now the ability to take county birth records, link them with KPS school records, link them with wage records for the first time, I believe, ever, if I'm not mistaken, that there's been that alignment of records. So you've got a kind of a data system that is being built. And I think the point that we are now is data is data. What does that alignment look like that Alyssa just referenced? So to certainly it's up to the committee in terms of what's a good use of time. But I think right now is the opportunity to engage with partners to say, we've got this data set. If we're going to look at interventions to try to understand what does or doesn't change the trajectory, we would need to identify additional partners who are willing to share data. So I think right now is a time where not to want to go through yet another update, but the update would be able to say, here's the data sets that we have, and then engage with this committee to say, how can we make this tool the most useful for our community that wants to make sure that we are as impactful as possible with our investments, and we're seeing that dollars invested in are helping people go from a trajectory down to a trajectory up. The actual data system itself, that those three kind of data sets are basically completed, but I think there's input needed for us to figure out where do we go from here.
So the next, if I understand it, the next deliverable, so I'm just going to put it in the realm of measures and deliverables. Deliverables is this connected, aligned piece with KPS, with the county, and with wage data. So that's the next piece that if someone was to deliver something to us, that would be the delivery. The next piece would be getting the additional points of data into this system, whatever connectivity or agreements or what have to happen to make this part of the process. So if I'm understanding that correctly, I guess us hearing about that data completion, that deliverable, makes some sense. I think along that same line, then we should get a calendar similar to the IK25. Here's where we are, here's where we're going, here's what's next, because the problem that I'm hearing out of, and again, channeling the good commissioner, is every 8 or 9 months we ask about this and we have no picture of when things are supposed to be coming to us. Having that picture and then trying to use that data set, that next deliverable, to help us in the work that we're going to be doing with the funding committee, I think is important. But we need to have that temporal trajectory, and because it's not okay to say, I think this is where we are, we're going to be here. We need to start setting some expectations that these are the milestones that we're going to meet, or we're just continuing to getting these, okay, here's where we are. So Ms. Stewart, I can see you're anxious. Go ahead.
All right, I was just thinking, two things came to mind for me with that additional context, which is, one, I think I feel like I've, because we've been part of, at United Way, I've been part of funding a piece of this data project. I've had a little more line of sight than others, but I'm mindful that there's very little public knowledge of this project. And so I'm just thinking about what role could this committee play in, when the time is right, creating some awareness of the system and inviting people to contribute data, to Laura's point. And then two, I'm just thinking tangibly about this grant process that we should potentially consider having connectivity to the life course data system that Upjohn is creating be a part of the distribution of grants. So are we creating an expectation up front that those who we grant dollars to would meet with with Upjohn staff and determine what components of data they would be able to contribute to this system? So I'm just realizing that we may be missing that language right now in what we have drafted. So good checkpoint for us, I think, to add that in right now and see, are we setting that expectation clearly? Are we giving them information so that they can budget appropriately to be able to do that and to provide and collect that data? And so just wanted to name that because that feels like something that we could at least tangibly do right now to get more in alignment with that component of the project.
Hey, Ms. Stewart, thanks for that contribution. I will add, and we could talk about this a little bit more offline, but if you could write out what you were suggesting, because like you said, right now, that's not currently in what we've drafted, and the time constraints that are, apparent, we have to add that pretty quickly. And so if
I have some template language that United Way uses around data collection requirements that I think could be modified. And so I can share that with the committee for consideration as sort of draft language.
Okay, well, that would be helpful. Just want to keep the scope of the subcommittee and the timelines up front. And to your point earlier, making sure that we stay on track to meet the timeline that we set for ourselves.
I can set some draft language by the end of today. Just to keep
all right.
Moving.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Nice job. Thank you, Ms. Stewart. And Dr. Cooney, thank you for raising that. It's important. And then Deputy City Manager Lamb, I saw you smile when I mentioned the IK25 temporal. You knew I was going to say that because you've heard it before. So I'm hoping that maybe we can have a report out, maybe put it on the agenda of how we're going to see some of this alignment, because when Kevin talks about our funding and when Ms. Stewart talks about our funding cycle and reviewing these grants and what have you, so we're all about that timeline. Well, let's make sure all the rest of our business is in that sort of alignment, that we have timelines that we should be meeting. So hopefully we can have something. Okay, other miscellaneous.
Mr. Chair, just want to go back to Mr. Cooney's comment about the Equity Committee. I just looked it up. The deadline for application is January 15th to the subcommittee. So we don't have a lot of time if this committee or the city at large wants to participate. But just wanted to know there is that deadline to apply is coming quickly.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Gotta love technology. Other miscellaneous comments?
Chair, thank you. And we do, somebody from TRC is going to apply, just as FYI, to that committee. The National Day of Racial Healing, which is the day after MLK Day every year, we're going to have a series of programs. One is going to be actually on MLK Day, and another is going to be the Tuesday after. It should be a little bit earlier this year. I know last year and the year before it conflicted with the city commission meeting. However, I think this year we're starting at 5, so it won't be as much of a conflict, but I'll make sure to share the information about those events. They're all virtual. But we have a couple different things lined up to do that week. Thank you.
Awesome. Others? Deputy City Manager, I'm going to put you on the spot again. You just love this. I should have sent you a message before the meeting. Do we have any updates on the homeless encampment? Anything that can be shared or?
Certainly, I can provide some updates, and then I also will put Alyssa on the spot as well in terms of the continuum of care and United Way's role in it. What I will say, just by way of thank you, is the role that the continuum of care under United Way has played in helping to bring shelter providers and advocates and individuals together on a weekly basis to talk about the encampments. There's a couple different approaches right now simultaneously happening. One, which is at the encampments right now, how do we support individuals living there to the best of our ability? That has involved supporting cleanups. That has involved working on a trash service pilot where we've got kind of frequent weekly trash service being picked up. We've had some volunteers come forward and offer up to provide for porta potties. And then we've had some amazing outpouring of community support guided by some local groups to do meal provisions on a routine basis. So you have sort of at the moment, how do you make that situation as good as possible, recognizing that we have our eye set on what comes next and how do we transition to that? We also have a local partner that is looking to acquire a motel locally that could allow for temporary housing if that acquisition goes forward. In fact, tonight on the City Commission's agenda, the Commission will consider roughly $500,000 of our community development block grant funding specifically for COVID relief that could go towards the acquisition for the motel. So there's this constant, we know that the solution is more housing, affordable housing, and that's going to be a constant push. Meanwhile, we also know there's the urgency of now. And so that has been really kind of a comprehensive community-wide effort. Unless I'm sure you've got things to add into that, but those are the things that come top of mind to me.
I think that's a great recap. And yeah, the motel piece will be, I would just say, kind of has double aims, which Laura touched on, which is it would allow us some immediate sort of safe emergency shelter for individuals who are in encampments. But then it would also be transitioned to really truly affordable permanent supportive housing units as well, 60 units, which would just be huge in addressing some of our housing stock and housing shortage for affordable housing. Yeah, I think you did a great summary, Laura. I think one thing I would also share is that the COC Continuum of Care is also collaborating with public health around vaccinations. So the people experiencing homelessness are a priority population. I'm not exactly sure, I don't want to speak out of turn on how they're sort of coded in the tiering of response, but they are very much a priority for our local public health department. And so we have been working and will continue to work to offer the vaccines when the time comes to individuals experiencing homelessness and also to individuals working in shelter settings. And so we know they are at heightened risk. And so we are excited to collaborate with public health to offer those vaccines when the timing is right for that. So that could be happening in the next couple months.
Okay. Excellent, thank you. Also, Deputy City Manager, wanted to see about at some point in time having a conversation about housing, and maybe we can do it on the side, but maybe at some point in time with this group, since we're talking about homelessness and community land trusts. I know that your Director Kick, has been doing some work regarding some education she's doing for herself professionally and some planning for the city. It would be nice to get an understanding of what that work is, talk about some unique and different opportunities. So we'd like to explore that. And then my last one is sort of a statement on the Foundation for Excellence. And I've said this to others on the side and to certainly some of the staff. We as SBK, we've been funded by the FFE a couple years ago. So the dollars that we have remaining to grant are available to us, and we haven't asked for additional funding at this point because we haven't done what we need to do with the present funding. The challenge that I want to give all of us and give our city partners and city folks is that when we wandered into the space of the FFE, we didn't do this thinking that we would think small. It was the hope that we would broaden our thinking, that we would look at really being as innovative and quirky and strange, and even reap the blessings of failure at times as we move along. But we have to try stuff. We have to risk. We have to dive in. And so I'm looking forward to Certainly the budget's been approved or in the process of being approved and everything. And there's some standard things that we're doing. But I would challenge us through this year that we really need to push our city and our partners to be trying some very unique and strange and innovative things as we go. And I think the United Way is wandering into spots that they've never wandered into before. And so I would challenge us on that unique and creative and ideation that we need to be trying and not be afraid to set goals, not be afraid to measure, not be afraid to say, oops, well, there's a blessing of not making it happen and we failed there, and we'll learn from those. So you're going to hear me ring this bell a few times over the next year while I don't know when my term is up as chair. Some of you want to get rid of me now, I got that, but for now I'm in the seat and I'm going to, standing, and I'm going to keep challenging us to be different and try stuff. We didn't do this to do the routine or just be routine. We really wanted to see our city step into places and dive into things in ways that we may have never done before. That doesn't mean we don't have limitations. I'm not saying that, but let's not limit our thinking, and let's not limit our drive. So anyway, anything else? All right, do we have any public comments, Mr. Conway?
There were no public comments at this time.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, when's our next meeting, Kevin?
Next meeting is the first Monday of the month, February. It'll be the February 1st.
All right. So with that, a lot of committees have lots of work to do. Exciting to see you doing all this work that's going to continue to move us forward, especially after what I said a minute ago. So again, Happy New Year, everybody, and do that work. Let's get her done. And with that, we are adjourned.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Have a good day.
everybody.